Hello, fans of uncontested investing. This is your host, Nate Zielinski, with another great episode on tap today. I am joined by Megan Harris, founder of Empora Title. Megan, thank you for joining me today, and a little bit of uncontested investing trivia for our listeners out there. You were actually supposed to be my first interview. I got sick. We had to reschedule, so I appreciate you making the time for us today. I think our audience is going to love this episode. So if you want to just introduce yourself, and then we can get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for having us. Thank you and RCN. And I'm happy to come to New York anytime. So no sweat off my back. Megan Harris, founder and CEO of Empora Title, been in the real estate and title industry since 2016. Empora's been around for about 4 years, and I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio.
Nice. Quite the power move for you, going back to like the origin that you just kind of mentioned there in 2016. So you started as an employee as a title company and then went on to found your own title company. So what kind of went into that thought process? Was there something that you just felt that you could do a little bit better than the company that you worked for? Was there any, worry or nerves going into that? That's quite the jump. It's impressive.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking. So, actually, I worked for a software company that was selling software to title agents. And so I was one of the people pounding pavement, going to these title companies all over the U.S., sitting next to their people, going to their closings, and really looking at how people who are buying and selling real estate experience the title process, and learned when I was in that job in that company that there's just a ton of opportunity in real estate in general, but definitely within title. Title's a $40 billion market, total top line per year. Title companies control all the money, all the paperwork, and all the data and the transaction, and ultimately the whole customer experience too. We're really that, point of sale, if you will, at closing that really ties the bow on all of the work that everybody has done, including lenders like RCN. So became super inspired by the industry and the problem when I was at that company because of its impact and just frankly how dismal the customer experience was that I saw when I was in that role. So customers don't have a good experience. It's a really high impact market. And also the employees are heroes inside title companies where they have to hold together so much in their head. And I joke with people, I say all the time that the hardest job I've ever had is being an escrow officer, like harder than running a tech company, harder than founding something. Like being an escrow officer is one of the hardest grinds you could, pick in your career. So those people deserve great tools as well. So selling software to title companies that had been stuck in a way of doing things for a long time was not the way to change an industry, and had an idea for how I would go about changing the industry and decided to pursue it after I got laid off at that company and spent a year in between. So sure, nerve-wracking, yes, but I vividly remember there was one day where one of our tech competitors announced a fundraise, and I saw it on Twitter, and I was just reading the conversation that was going back and forth about this raise announcement. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, this isn't it. Like, this company is not it. Like, this isn't how this gets solved. Mm-hmm. And after realizing what I was thinking, I was like, man, if I don't start this company, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. So I have to go do this. This is now a binary decision, and made the commitment to see it through since then.
All right, 1 for 1. That's an awesome answer to get us rolling here. I love that part of your story, right? From laid off to founder. So kind of their loss, right? But just from hearing that answer, go-getter, entrepreneurial spirit, is that kind of what led you to the confidence to start your own business? Did you go to school for something in the business realm?
So honestly, my dad's an immigrant. So he came here from Europe in the late 80s, and he drilled into my sibling and I's heads that we basically had to work for anything we wanted in life. And very thankful that that's the lesson that I had taught to me very early on. I got an economics degree in agriculture at Ohio State, so I wouldn't say that played a huge role in this, but have just always wanted to build things, have always wanted to create value for people I care about and solve really meaningful problems. And so this is one that I latched onto and said, I'm going to go solve this problem.
I love that. And go Buckeyes.
Yeah.
I'm a UConn graduate, but I have
Nice.
I have a friend out in Cleveland who's an avid
There you go.
Ohio State fan now. So to make it even more challenging, right? Starting your own company wasn't hard enough. You decided to do it in 2020 during COVID. Now, obviously, COVID was a very hard period of time to get through, but I think a lot of people that, took the time to reflect on themselves or plan their next move, like there was some positives that got taken out of that for certain people. what challenges did you have kind of starting your own business, or, did it help you in any way, right? Like having a clear mind, clear schedule type of thing?
Yeah, it definitely had its pros and cons. So I'll say on the pros end, because that's a little bit easier, frankly, there was not a whole lot going on. So it definitely allowed for some focus to really go all in on something, as well as, COVID really opened up the opportunity for Midwest founders to raise capital from the coast too. Because it immediately, posed this question of, okay, if we can't meet people in person, then why not meet with anybody anywhere?
Yes.
And we made some really great connections. Some of those folks now sit, on our board and are active investors of ours, which has been really instrumental for us. So I would say that definitely helped us. Additionally, virtual closing legislation actually made a lot of ground in COVID, where a lot of state governments said, okay, people still got to close on houses, but they can't be in person. Yes. And they rolled that out a lot faster than they had in the past, which has been great because that pushed the industry forward for sure. I would say the ways that it's been hard, it definitely has had a resounding impact on our culture to have been, starting completely remote. Not having everybody in a war room together in the very beginning to work through things definitely changed, a lot of the dynamics of the company. But slowly and surely, we've been more in person in Columbus and have had a hybrid team since then.
Nice. Love to hear that. So the securing of title, we've kind of briefly touched on it in your first couple answers here. It can be a pain point for investors. As you mentioned, all the hard work comes down to, can we secure the title, right? So in terms of your mission at Empora and trying to ease the fear of the unknown for investors when it comes to title, what would you say that overarching mission or goal is for you guys?
Yeah, our mission is to make it easy to buy and sell real estate. So that's really it. And yeah, it's like if you leave a transaction with us feeling like it was easy to do, then we did our jobs right. And there's so many things that have to happen operationally and from a technology standpoint for it to feel easy. But if you leave feeling like it was easy to get that deal done or easy to do that closing, then we've done our jobs. Actually, I was at a mastermind a couple weeks ago and did one of these with RJ Bates. And he was saying that he's very vocal with, the investors that he mentors, that if you do not have a title partner early in your investing career, it will break your transactions, right? Because we are a partner to investors and we talk to them every single day. We, go to their kids' graduation parties. We work together so closely at times. So it's super important that any investors on this call really feel like they have that person they can, call and will help and will care about getting their deals done as much as they do.
And I think the efficiency piece plays a huge role for being able to expand a business because, like you said, if that part's easy, then somebody's going to want to do that again the exact same way. I think RCN kind of shares that similar mindset of let's make this as efficient and as repeatable as possible because investors will be, okay, that was way easier than I thought. I can't wait to do that again, secure my next property, I have somebody that I can trust at the finish line for title, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's definitely the case. Have had a couple conversations with different folks at RCN. You guys definitely feel the same way. And it's if we're just easy to work with and people are going to want to keep coming back, it's one less thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. And I think part of the leg up on the competition that you may have is the technology aspect of it. If you want to just expand on that, what kind of role technology plays for you in your life and then in the business as well, right? What kind of spurred on technology is going to be the key for us to win?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been in software my whole career. It just so happens that I've also been in title and insurance my whole career. So technology is a great tool for, the things that, frankly, computers can do and have done for a long time. So we take our amazing escrow officers and we say, what are the things that a computer can do well and we can take off their plate and make sure that they're focused on the things that computers can't do, which is help think critically about how to solve, a complex title issue or talk to an investor about how to, help a seller feel comfortable leading up to a closing. So we really try to use our technology to help enable them to do more. And then on the investor end, we give them a site where they can interact with us pretty much digitally for everything. So they can send us earnest money digitally. They can send an earnest money request out to their end buyers to submit to us digitally. They can get updates about their deals through our site, start transactions, close transactions, communicate with our team, get a response within 30 minutes, 98% of the time, which is great. So, then there's obviously the virtual closing piece, which we're working on with RCN, trying to get there. But just trying to make all those touch points as easy as possible.
Nice. I think before we take our first break and do our first segment, the last thing I want to ask you about your role as a founder and a CEO, what do you feel is like the most rewarding part for you? Is it being able to expand and hire new people? Is it like accomplishing a task that you've been working on for months? As you started this journey and you've been a founder and a CEO for almost 4 or 5 years now, what have you found as like the most gratifying thing for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the thing that's the most gratifying, I'd say there's 2 things, and it's kind of hard to pick one, but they're definitely the top 2. The first is seeing an investor take all the value that they get from us and be able to refocus that energy somewhere else in their business. When somebody says, hey, I had a situation with Title before I worked with Empora, now I work with you guys, and it's just made my life so much easier, that is just like music to my ears. To hear that we really had that impact on them, where they can then turn around and take that time and invest in more deals or spend the time doing something else, whatever it might be. That's super rewarding. The second thing that I would say is a close second is really seeing our team grow through that process as people and individuals, and be able to align our mission to wherever it is they're trying to go as a person. So, if there's somebody who's been in Title their whole career, they, clearly very talented, but maybe never been at a place where they can leverage those skills, to the max and really grow in their career. That's also super rewarding because it feels like we're partnering with, our people to deliver the overall easy experience. And, you obviously have to have both equations. You have to have customers that you really enjoy partnering with and a team, who's willing to put in the work. So being able to work with our team has definitely been the most rewarding thing.
That balance is probably the most key part to a successful business, right? So
yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So we're off to a great start with Megan. We're going to come back with some more great answers. We'll take a break. Shout out to our sponsors. We'll come back with the Money Making Minute. So stay tuned. REI Inc. is the premier monthly publication for real estate investors. Dive into a wealth of expert insights and knowledge from industry leaders and gain valuable regional market insights, ensuring you always have the best information right at your fingertips. Visit REIinc.com to elevate your real estate investment game today. Welcome back to this episode of Uncontested Investing. I'm joined by Megan Harris, CEO and founder of Empora Title. Already delivered some very impactful answers. I appreciate your insight, Megan, and I think this is going to take it even one step further. We're about to do the Money Making Minute segment. So investment strategy, app, skill, habit, or even just part of your daily routine. We really want to try to have our guests share insight about what makes them successful and what our listeners can take from them, and maybe, within 2024 and beyond, what's going to really exponentially increase their success. So go for it.
Cool. So for Money Making Minutes, the thing that I think about is the impact that our coach and our focus has had on our business. So we actually have a coach who says something that I really appreciate, which is major in the majors. And for each business, that is different. So if you're an investor and you're just getting started, or maybe you've done a few deals and you're figuring out where to put in more time and money, figure out what your majors are. What are you really, really good at that gives you maybe a leg up over the other investors in your region, or frankly, it's just something that you would want to repeat across all of your deals. For us, one of the things that we care about, one of our majors, is working only with investors. So we focus only on investor transactions. We don't do anything else. We don't sell to different client profiles or different customer bases. And that's made all the world of a difference when it comes to focus. So figure out what you're really great at that allows you to enable that focus in your business, whether it's a certain kind of deal or whatever it might be, and major in your majors.
I think that's a great piece of information. I actually just heard a quote this past week of, don't strengthen your weaknesses and weaken your strengths, right? So focusing your energy and your attitude and focusing your energy on what you do well and what can actually impact your business, I think is a great piece of advice, right? Too many times people try to wear too many hats and it can wear them down or distract and take away from the main goal. So I actually really like that answer.
Yeah.
one of the things I wanted to hit on as well is the Midwest, where you're located. We've already talked about Columbus, Ohio, Ohio State. When it comes to investing in real estate, people can get carried away with the hot markets. So, where should I be investing my money next? Florida always comes up. Texas, California, obviously those are the big hitters. Arizona and in the Phoenix and Scottsdale area have seen a recent increase. The Midwest can often get overlooked, though, and I know that RCN specifically has a lot of deals get done in the Midwest. So What's your advice to investors out there, right? Like, don't just try to go for the biggest city possible. What kind of opportunities are actually available there?
For sure. I mean, the Midwest has a ton of opportunity through, all of the economic changes for the past year. Investors are still doing business in Columbus. They're still doing business in Cleveland. They're still doing business in Cincinnati and the rest of the Midwest. And what I'd say is something that's interesting about the Midwest is the investors there are very well connected and they're very willing to help each other. So especially if you're newer, getting plugged into the Midwest actually has its benefits because there is a whole, slew of people who would be willing to lend a hand and help you, get that first deal done. And we have Facebook groups, one in Columbus alone that has over 13,000 people in it, which is huge, right? And that's just a pool of resources to get started. So that's thing number one. And thing number two is, going to the hottest markets is great because they're the hottest markets, but also there's a lot more competition there, right? So if you can figure out a way to get a deal done that works for you in the Midwest, I think the support system is there and there's just less competition in comparison to some of those places.
Yeah, I definitely get that sense of like the shark-infested waters are definitely like the bigger cities and, they're harder to break into. So the Midwest can kind of be that area of the country where you find your groove, you get confident, you are able to build enough of a portfolio and then, kind of graduate and take on the bigger cities if that's what you're into. But I really think that the Midwest gets overlooked from that investor perspective.
Yep.
So as we've talked about your journey with Empora Title, you're actually expanding into other states now, right? You started in just servicing the Ohio area, and I believe it's Florida, Indiana, Kentucky?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yeah, really close. Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Florida, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And Missouri.
Nice. Okay, that's awesome. So as you're growing, what kind of challenges have you been facing? I think a lot of investors that may be listening to this, right? It's a common theme. We want to expand our business. We want to grow our portfolio. But it's easier said than done. So what kind of challenges have you faced and overcome, and how do you think that's helped your business as you continue to grow?
Yep. So one of the challenges that we faced with expansion is hiring. So making sure that we're hiring the right people, and we frankly even know what the right person looks like for the market that we're going into. So we've gotten a lot better about that over the past few years. But if we had tried to, go to 10 states over the last year, we definitely would have screwed it up a lot more than, we have. So getting hiring right, getting the right people in the door, and really building that initial brand presence in the market has definitely been, I'd say a challenge, but something that we've, worked through as we frankly go out and hire people who love working with investors right now. That's definitely been, a bullseye lesson that we've learned over the past year. So I would say just in general, if you're listening to this call, just be honest with yourself about what you can actually take on. And I think the owners of companies, CEOs of companies especially, will always be on the tip of the spear, if you will, in terms of pushing. But, you want to be able to stomach it, and your team needs to be able to stomach it so you can actually deliver and not, mess up your own reputation in those new markets.
Yeah, and kind of doing it at the correct pace, right? Finding that sustainable growth, not like you mentioned, not just, expanding for the sake of expansion, but doing it, at the right time for you and your company, or you and your portfolio is, I think, a very good lesson to hear.
Yep.
So customer service is another aspect. As we've talked before the episode, it definitely seems like obviously what CEO of their company doesn't want to have that extremely positive customer service experience. So I imagine growing, everybody that's an employee for you takes on more work. You're in different parts of the country, different time zones maybe. So how important is customer service to you, and kind of go through maybe some of the growth challenges of like what's been the key that you're telling your employees to try to keep that level of customer service?
Yeah, pick up the phones. Honestly, like that's the biggest thing. And our team has done a really great job of this. But when all else fails, pick up the phone and talk to somebody about the problem that they're having so they're not finding out about it, right before closing. Pick up the phones to each other, pick up the phones to the lien holder, like whoever it might be, just pick up the phone when in doubt. And that is the most important thing because that gets people on the same page and it keeps things moving along quickly. So that's been, we say that probably every day, with our teams and in our culture. And no matter what market we're in, we think that's super important.
I think that's a great tip too. It can seem so simple, right? Just picking up the phone, but a lot of times that open line of communication is what starts the process to closing deals. And I think it's a perfect segue into our second segment, which is deal breaker, deal maker, right? So what are some common themes that you maybe see that, causes a deal to break down, or what are common themes of success when it comes to getting a deal across the finish line? So picking up the phone is definitely, a part of that equation. But if you want to expand on that and go into our deal breaker, deal maker segment, the floor is yours.
All good. So I would say the biggest deal breakers and deal makers are make sure you have the right communication on a deal to get it done as quickly as possible. So that includes the mindset of picking up the phone like we talked about. Also make sure that you have the right team who, when they see a problem or they're, hitting some kind of roadblocker in a transaction, their propensity is to pick up the phone to solve the problem as opposed to slow down and maybe overthink it because time kills all deals, right? So deal breaker would be time. Deal maker, pick up the phone. Deal breaker, time. So don't let a lot of time pass and make sure that you hire people who get that. And that's kind of how they live their life in the day-to-day already. So they're going to come in and push to get your deals done as fast as you need them. Good.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think, again, there's so many lessons that people in the investment industry can share with investors, right? So in this new era of uncontested investing, we're trying to share stories from all angles of the industry. And I love hearing about how, somebody that runs a title company has life experience and lessons that are applicable to investors on the ground that may be listening. So I appreciate that insight. Again, we're going to take another quick break. Last sponsor read of the episode, and then we'll come back and wrap things up with a few more questions for you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Real estate investors, are you searching for a title solution? Empora Title has reimagined the title and closing process for real estate investors, building a digital-first solution that delivers the fastest, smoothest closings possible and simplifies the management of multiple deals. Empora provides services like title and escrow for real estate closings, remote online notaries, digital EMDs, record keeping, 1031 exchange assistance, digital transaction management, and much more. Empora works with all types of investor transactions, including wholesale deals, double closes, creative deals, and novations, to name a few. Check them out at emporatitle.com or follow them on Instagram at Empora Title for upcoming news and events. Welcome back to this episode of Uncontested Investing. I'm across the table from Megan Harris, CEO and founder of Empora Title. Every answer has been extremely insightful. I think our listeners are going to get a lot from this, Megan, so I really do appreciate you taking the time. One of the things that I think is important to discuss on every episode, I kind of take a diversion from the industry talk, the business practices. Do you have a passion project or something outside of work that really helps you recharge and refocus, right? I think you're probably able to speak on this the best, being a founder and a CEO of a company. So your spare time or free time is probably few and far between. What outside of work keeps you going, keeps you motivated?
Yeah, great question. So as business leaders, we all have to show up our best, right? And so if you just work yourself into the ground, then that's going to impact your work and your team and everybody you care about. So can't do that. I've really got two things that I lean into for this. The first is, frankly, just putting more structure in my day-to-day than I probably would prefer as a person to work out, make healthy food, spend time calling my parents or my family or whoever, to really connect with the people that you care about and actively set the time to recharge those buckets or recharge those batteries, refill those buckets. And then I would say the second thing is I also play music. So I played the saxophone growing up and I love music. And, I think it's really important for anybody who's investing a lot of their time into work to think about what gave them joy as a kid. So was it sports? Was it comics? Like, I don't know. But if you have something that you did as a kid that you really enjoyed, finding some way to weave that into your adult life and not just leave it in your childhood is a great way to recharge your batteries when you're working really hard, because you already love it,
Yeah.
So it's great.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Yeah, it's like the little things, like you said, of like eating healthy and working out. Those things kind of take effect over time, right? It's like the long game with that. But then the music on the flip side, or something that you're passionate about, is that immediate, gratification of, busting out a solo or playing one of your favorite songs. So do you have a go-to? Is that like a party favor? Do people like, Megan, break out the saxophone, or
No.
you kind of just play behind closed doors?
No, closed doors for
Yeah,
sure.
nice. Okay. Was there ever a point in your career that maybe you had doubts? I think that for people out there that are kind of passive investors that want to make the leap to full-time, sometimes that first roadblock can trip them up and make them unsure of themselves, right? I think that's human nature. It happens to everybody. So I'm wondering, from a business professional such as yourself that has probably had these doubts starting your own company and maneuvered them successfully over the course of these past couple years, what was that like for you? Did you ever have that, and how'd you overcome it?
Yeah. So over 90% of startups fail. And when I say fail, I mean like go to zero fail, like lose connections, fail. And it's, really painful. I've been through one of those before, and it sucks, right? It is really painful. But the good news for anybody listening to this, you're probably in real estate, which has a way higher success rate, which is great. And I think the question that I always come back to is like, what else am I doing? Like, how else am I spending my time? And once you've committed to going big in your career and picking something that you're really passionate about, I just find that, that commitment is a really great motivator, because there's literally nothing else I'd rather be spending my time on. So sometimes you just have to pick it and go for it and say, like, there's literally nothing else that's as important for me to try, and I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah. I like that answer, because as we talked about, like the passive investor side of things, it's like, if you're maybe doing that, then you're already kind of doing yourself a disservice, right? It's like, if you're thinking about getting into it in general, you just going to have to jump into the deep end, learn how to swim that way. And yeah, there's going to be some roadblocks. There's going to be some peaks and valleys, but isn't that, part of everything?
Oh, 100%. I mean, so. I remember one of our very first clients. I remember where I was when he called me and told me that he was having problems and couldn't close with us for a while. And I remember how that felt. It was just like a rock in my chest of like, shit, like we worked so hard, like this stinks, but it's like you just get up the next day and you work on the problem that they brought to you and you keep moving, right? And I think another thing it's really important to remember is very rarely is there a do or die problem. Like very rarely is the problem that you're feeling today going to be the thing that, brings your business down or is the reason that you can't be a successful investor. It's just a problem, and you work on it and you go work on the next one. So just try to, I've worked on keeping that mindset to get through those peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I think viewing it through that lens can be actually extremely helpful then, right? Of, this isn't the end all be all. This is just another problem to solve, right? And a long list of, being an investor, owning your own business, starting a family, like those problems come up just naturally, and you got to work your way around them.
Yep.
So male-dominated industry that investing can be. You're a woman that started your own business and you're making a name for yourself. Very successful start. Obviously, the company has continued to grow in its early stages. So as a woman in the industry, what do you feel like your advice would be to other women trying to make the same leap and the same impact on the industry that you are?
Yeah. The first thing is, don't let that fact stop you from getting into the business. There's a lot of money to be made in real estate, and women should definitely get to share in that pie. And some of the most successful real estate investors I know are women, some of the ones with the highest growth businesses, with the most sustainable teams. So there are a lot of really great women in real estate investing who just objectively on paper are building some of the best businesses in their markets. And I'd say find them, meet them, join their groups, go to their, trips, and learn from them. And don't let that stop you from just taking that first step. There's a lot to learn from, the groups that have been in real estate for a long time. And if you see that people are doing something that's working, learn from it, do it yourself, right? But don't let that fact stop you from just taking that first step.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, right? I travel a lot for RCN Capital on the road doing trade shows, and I see a lot of women speaking on panels, a lot of women successful in their own business. So I think trying to, if you have any reservations, like trying to find those people, seek them out, figure out how they did it and try to, put your own flavor on it, obviously, but, it is attainable. And you're right. I think the women bring something to the table that the men just honestly don't, so there's definitely room for everybody at the table.
Absolutely.
So for you specifically, when it comes to Empora Title, is there anything that, is there another layer to the company? Is there more growth? What's like motivating for you or the next step? Obviously, as we've talked here for, the better part of a half hour now, it's easy to see that, you're certainly a go-getter. You certainly have all these ideas and are making positive impacts on the industry. So is it more Empora focused and getting that stronger, or is there another step in your career that you're eyeing maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely all Empora. We're building a fully digital closing, and for different investors, that'll mean different things. But our goal is to really automate the transaction as much as it can be automated, and then have really great people to handle the things that can't be automated. And we're going to keep going until that's in all 50 states, and we're the number one provider for investors in America. So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. So let's wrap this episode up so you can get back to work. No, so I think we talked about this a little bit earlier with the opportunities in the Midwest. One of the things I like closing with on uncontested investing is any like teaching, training, mentoring. We've even had some motivational speakers on here and authors of books. So are you involved in any of those communities? How valuable do you think that education is for investors to kind of bounce ideas off each other, be a part of a community? And are you active in those communities?
Yeah, we're definitely active in those communities. We host and go to almost all the events that happen in Columbus. And frankly, just in our market, there's always something going on. Like there's probably 2 or 3 a week that you can go to. And I highly recommend going to those because you just meet all the players in your market. And a lot of folks will, bring vendors with them. So if you really need a new GC or you need an accountant or whatever, a marble guy, like a lot of those people are there at those events. So it's the best place to get plugged in and really meet the vendors that you need to scale your business. And frankly, just make good connections. So the next time, you're in contract on a property, and by the way, so is another investor. If you've met that investor at an event and, looked each other in the eye, shaken hands, had a drink, the likelihood that you're going to be able to work something out together is a lot higher. So I definitely recommend getting plugged into those. Yeah, people could kind of push it aside as it is like an overused phrase or piece of advice, right? But networking is such a key. And I think actually our old host, shout out to Tim, he's going to be joining us later today. But his saying of every episode was your network is your net worth. So I think that's actually a perfect segue as we kind of close this episode. The one last thing I wanted to leave is the floor to be yours in terms of, social media, how to find Empora, like, the website. Are you on LinkedIn at all? Are you active? Like, so just let people know how they can find more of you and more of Empora Title. For sure. We're all over social, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Go find us at Empora Title on Instagram, especially. That's probably our best platform. We're really plugged into the Family Mastermind and some of the more national groups. So hope to see you guys at one of those events coming up. And don't hesitate to say hello. If you go directly to our site, www.emporatitle.com, you can connect with our team, see an overview of our site, and actually even submit a contract to start a deal if you have one ready to go. So those are the best places to get plugged in with us, and would love to connect with you all. Awesome. Investors out there, what are you waiting for? Find her at EmporaTitle.com. Megan, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. This was another outstanding episode. Keep kicking butt in the industry. I hope that our paths cross again soon. It was a pleasure sitting down and talking to you today. Our uncontested investing audience, thank you for joining me as well. We'll see you all in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.